Chosen one. Listen, this is not coincidence. Heaven itself has interrupted the noise of your day because a message must be delivered into your spirit. You have been through battles that should have broken you. You have faced words that cut deeper than knives, betrayals that left you gasping for air. Yet here you stand, still breathing, still walking, still chosen. That alone is proof that every attempt to destroy you has failed. They thought they were silencing you, but they were only sharpening your voice. They thought you were finished, but heaven was only beginning. Every pain, rejection, and false accusation has been divine architecture shaping you for this exact moment in time. You are not the victim of your story. You are the weapon God forged in secret. You remember when everything fell apart, when friends vanished, when prayers seemed unanswered, when even your faith felt like it was fading. You wondered if God still saw you. He did. You were never abandoned. You were being hidden. Heaven does not reveal its treasures in the open until they are ready. And now, the covering is being lifted. Every time the enemy struck, heaven took note. Every word against you became evidence in a higher courtroom. They laughed when you cried, mocked your faith when you refused to bow. But the Lord was watching, and the day of divine recompense is near. There is a spiritual principle: the more intense the attack, the greater the anointing that follows. You have endured what others could not because you carry what others cannot. The pressure was not punishment, it was prophecy. The enemy saw your potential and panicked. He tried to crush what God had crowned. Hear this truth: what was meant to bury you became the soil where your roots went deeper. What was meant to silence you became the stage for your testimony. The same fire that tested you will now reveal your glory. The word of the Lord came through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 20, verse 11. But the Lord is with me like a mighty warrior, so my persecutors will stumble and not prevail. That is your promise, chosen one. The same people, systems, and spirits that plotted your downfall will stumble in confusion. Those who mocked your tears will witness your restoration. The God who watched you endure in silence is now rising as your defender. You do not need to fight back. Heaven has already drawn the sword. Your season of hiddenness is ending. You are stepping into visibility not for fame, but for purpose. Every scar is a symbol of endurance. The attacks were proof of your value. The darkness would never have pursued you if you were not carrying light. You are part of a generation that carries divine justice. You have been chosen to expose darkness and stand when others bow. The world is shifting, and heaven is positioning its chosen ones in places of influence. That includes you. Now, you must choose: will you keep hiding, or will you rise? Will you keep doubting your worth, or step fully into your identity? The time for hesitation is over. The anointing within you is awakening. This is divine timing. You are called to move differently, to speak with authority, act with obedience, and walk with holy boldness. The ones who underestimated you will witness God's judgment unfold. Every injustice will be answered, every betrayal reversed. Feel it, the atmosphere is shifting. The weight that pressed you down is lifting. You are not who you were when the attacks began. You are stronger, wiser, and crowned with divine resilience. So stand tall, wipe your tears. The Lord is not only your Redeemer, He is your warrior. You are proof that no weapon formed against the chosen will stand. The world may have written you off, but heaven has written you in. Before you leave this message, do this as an act of faith. Comment 777 below. It is not luck. It is a declaration that what God started in your life, He will perfect. And if this word resonates in your soul, like, share, and subscribe, so that this message reaches others who have been tried, broken, and chosen. Together, You will become living proof that no one can destroy what heaven has anointed. Judgment is coming, and favor is your portion. You are rising now, and as heaven moves, the evidence will be undeniable light breaking through every shadow. Justice echoing in places once ruled by silence and pain. Your name will carry weight in the spirit, angels will recognize your authority, and the same fire that purified you will now ignite destinies through you. You walked through seasons that felt endless, when silence from heaven echoed louder than any voice on earth. You questioned if God had turned his face away, if your prayers were lost in the wind. But what you didn't realize then was that the silence was sacred. It was the sound of heaven preparing you for revelation. The years that felt wasted were not wasted at all. They were training grounds. You were being refined, not rejected. In those silent years, you learned to see through illusion. You discovered who truly stood beside you when the applause faded and the lights dimmed. The pain stripped away false attachments and shallow alliances. Every disappointment revealed another truth. Only what is rooted in God can endure the fire. They saw your stillness as defeat, but it was divine restraint. You could have fought back, defended yourself, exposed their lies, but the Spirit told you to stay quiet. That obedience cost you everything, yet it preserved your purity. The waiting was not punishment, it was protection. God was teaching you something that power cannot teach: how to listen when He whispers, how to trust when nothing makes sense. Every tear became a language heaven understood. Every sigh became incense rising before the throne. The testing produced endurance, and endurance produced character, and character became the vessel of glory that cannot be stolen. The silent years were your wilderness. Like Moses tending sheep far from Egypt, you thought your purpose had ended. But the desert was the classroom of destiny. When everyone forgot your name, heaven was engraving it upon its scroll. When you walked alone, you were not forgotten. Angels followed in silence. When you lost everything, heaven was replacing it with what could never be taken again: authority. Remember how heavy it felt the nights when you were too weary to pray, when your heart felt numb. Those were the nights heaven measured your endurance. You didn't realize you were being prepared to carry power, because power without humility destroys. The crushing made you careful. The silence made you discerning. The enemy hoped you would lose faith, but instead, your roots went deeper. You learned to find God not only in answered prayers, but in unanswered ones. You learned that His presence is not proven by outcomes, but by peace. That's why you now carry a calm that confuses your enemies. You walk through storms as if you've already seen the rainbow. You no longer chase validation, you carry revelation. The years of misunderstanding built a fortress of quiet confidence within you. You've learned that God's delays are not denials, they are divine setups for public vindication. What seemed like abandonment was actually God clearing the stage, removing those who could not go where you are going. The Word of God reminds us through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 30, verse 5. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. That morning is approaching. The night was long, yes, but dawn has a sound, and it's the sound of doors opening that no man can shut. The same silence that once terrified you is now being broken by the voice of destiny. Heaven is speaking again. Look at what the testing has produced in you: patience, humility, wisdom, and discernment. You no longer move out of emotion but revelation. You have learned that not every battle deserves your attention, and not every storm requires your fear. You have matured in the fire, and now the flames bow to your faith. The ones who left you in the valley will not recognize you on the mountain. You will no longer chase explanations, because what God is about to do in your life will be self-explanatory. The anointing you carry now came through tears, not titles, through brokenness, not applause. You are stepping out of the season of silence and into the season of unveiling. Heaven did not waste your pain, it invested it. The crushing of the olive always precedes the flow of oil. The breaking of the vessel always precedes the outpouring of glory. What was formed in private will now speak loudly in public. And none will deny that the hand of God was upon you all along. Your silence was never weakness, it was prophecy. And now, every moment of restraint, every quiet surrender, every hidden act of faith is echoing back with divine reward. The waiting has ended. The lesson is complete. What began in tears will end in triumph. The dawn you longed for is no longer distant, it rises within you. What once felt buried now breathes again, radiant and unstoppable, carrying the fragrance of heaven's victory. You have wondered why certain people turned against you without reason, why doors that looked perfect suddenly slammed shut, why familiar faces became strange overnight. It was never random. What happened was not human alone, it was spiritual. The enemy saw your potential long before you did, and he launched a coordinated plot to destroy you from the inside out. He did not come with horns and fire, he came through manipulation, jealousy, and deception. He whispered through the mouths of those who once said they loved you. He stirred confusion in places that once felt safe. It was a campaign of sabotage designed to drain your faith, to make you doubt your worth, and to convince you that God had forgotten. But heaven never forgot. Every betrayal carried a message: you are dangerous to darkness. The opposition that surrounded you was not proof of failure, it was confirmation of calling. When the enemy cannot touch your destiny, he tries to distract your focus. When he cannot destroy your promise, he attacks your peace. He used the words of others to wound your spirit. But even those wounds became sacred scars, marks of divine survival. There were days when you wanted to fight back, to defend your name, to prove your purity at Alim, but God said, "Be still." You didn't understand it then, but heaven was handling what your hands could not. While you cried in silence, the Lord was gathering evidence. Every word spoken in secret, every scheme planned in darkness, was being recorded in the archives of eternity. Judgment was already being written before your enemies even realized what they had done. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 10. I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct, according to what their deeds deserve. Those who thought they could manipulate and mock you without consequence will face the truth: God is not blind. He is patient. But his patience has an expiration when it concerns his chosen. You have been through seasons where you saw no defense, but now heaven's response is near. Do you remember how they underestimated you? They thought your silence meant surrender. They thought your forgiveness meant weakness. But you were never weak, you were being measured. While they plotted your fall, heaven was building your foundation. While they tried to expose you, God was preparing to expose them. Every time they lied about you, you gained spiritual weight. Every false accusation added another layer of armor. They unknowingly strengthened the very one they tried to destroy. That is how divine justice works. What the enemy meant for evil, God recycles for glory. Now the exposure begins. The same voices that spread rumors will tremble when the truth comes to light. The same hands that pushed you down will witness you rise. You will not need to seek revenge. Your restoration will be your response. And when people ask how you survived, your only answer will be grace. There is a moment when heaven says enough. That moment is now approaching. The season of concealment is ending and divine recompense is being set into motion. The very pit they dug for you will become their own snare. The words they use to wound you will become the evidence of your vindication. You have endured in silence long enough. The unseen war around you has reached its climax. Angels are moving, truth is being unveiled, and every tongue that rose against you is being silenced. You will not have to defend your name. The Lord Himself will speak for you. As you read this, feel the shift within your spirit. The confusion is clearing, the heaviness is lifting, and peace is returning. You are not broken, you are ascending. This battle was not to destroy you, it was to reveal who you truly are. Now take this small prophetic step of faith. Comment it ends now. Say it not as a wish, but as a decree. When you write it, you are aligning with heaven's timeline, declaring that every false plot, every cycle of pain, and every spiritual attack comes to its divine conclusion. It ends not because you said so, but because heaven already decided so. The storm that tried to erase you has only confirmed your identity. The plot against you has become the prophecy in motion. Those who tried to destroy you will see that you were never standing alone. You are surrounded by divine justice, shielded by purpose, and carried by the one who never forgets his chosen. The fire you faced was never meant to consume you, it was designed to refine you. You wondered why every time you got close to breakthrough, something shattered, why betrayal followed blessing, why peace always seemed one breath away. It was not chaos without meaning, it was the refiner's process. God was burning away what could not go with you into your next season. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every loss was heat applied to impurities that clung to your soul. You prayed for increase, but increase requires cleansing. The oil that flows from your life now costs what few are willing to pay. You have been through the kind of pain that changes your voice, the kind that turns ordinary believers into warriors. There is a pattern in heaven's preparation before God elevates. He isolates before He trusts. He tests before He crowns. He crushes. You were not forgotten in the crushing, you were transformed. You prayed for strength, and God sent trials. You asked for wisdom, and God sent confusion that forced you to listen deeper. You asked for faith, and God allowed silence so you would learn to believe without evidence. You didn't see it then, but the very fire that scared you was the tool of your sanctification. Every time you said, "I can't take this anymore," heaven whispered, "Just a little longer." Because what was being produced inside you was incorruptible, a character that cannot be manipulated by applause or destroyed by criticism. It is written in the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9, "I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people. And they will say, the Lord is our God." You are that refined one. Your prayers, though once born out of pain, now carry authority because they come from experience. Heaven trusts your voice because it was trained through tears. You don't pray from theory anymore. You pray from survival. That's why when you speak now, darkness trembles, the sound of your endurance terrifies the enemy. Refinement is never beautiful while it's happening. The furnace doesn't feel like destiny, it feels like destruction. But what was burning was never you. It was everything that weakened you. The fire removed the fear of people, the dependency on approval, the insecurity that made you doubt your worth. What remains now is purity, faith that no trial can bend. Many watched your suffering and assumed you were losing. They did not understand the language of heaven. God hides His greatest transformations in pain because pain silences the pretenders. Only those truly called remain when the fire gets hot. That's why many left you. They were never meant to survive the same heat designed to shape you. You have been molded in the secret place. Every no you received was heaven redirecting you. Every delay was divine timing protecting you from premature exposure. The lessons you learned in the dark will now become light for others still trapped in their own wilderness. Your scars are sermons, and your silence was worship. When you look back now, you can see it clearly. The things that hurt you most became the things that trained your discernment. The loneliness taught you how to hear the still small voice of God. The rejection prepared you to recognize counterfeit opportunities. The pain developed spiritual muscles that now hold the weight of your calling. You have passed the test. The refiner's fire did not end you, it defined you. You are walking proof that purity still has power. You are evidence that endurance outlasts evil. And though your heart once felt shattered, what emerged from the ashes is stronger, purer, and unshakably aligned with heaven's heartbeat. The fire did its work. You no longer fear what once frightened you. You no longer chase what once rejected you. You have been stripped of the excess, emptied of pride, filled with grace. You have come through the furnace, glowing with quiet strength. Now, as the smoke clears, you realize something divine. You didn't just survive the fire, you became it. Wherever you go, purity burns in your words, conviction radiates from your presence, and faith blazes in your eyes. You are not defined by the flames that tried to consume you. You are defined by the glory that came forth because of them. The heat that once terrified you now bows before your peace. What once burned you now fuels the light that guides others through their own darkness. You emerged as gold, carrying heaven's reflection, unbreakable, unwavering, unstoppable. The fire no longer harms you, it recognizes you as its master. The silence has lifted and heaven is watching. The season of waiting has fulfilled its purpose. You, chosen one, stand now at the threshold of divine justice. The trials that once confused you have become the evidence of your faith. Heaven has taken notice. Every hidden act of endurance, every prayer whispered in the dark, has reached the throne. Nothing was wasted, nothing was forgotten. When God moves in judgment, He does so with precision. He is not a harsh judge, but a righteous one. The scales are being balanced. You may not see it all at once, but in the unseen realm, decrees are being written in your favor. The same hands that once held you back are about to witness the hand of God propel you forward. You have been patient. You have waited while others mocked your faith. You have stayed humble when pride tried to whisper. Fight for your own justice. But heaven says, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The time for vindication has arrived, not by human strategy, but by divine order. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 75, verse 7. It is God who judges, He brings one down, He exalts another. This is that moment. The courtroom of heaven is in session, and your story has been presented before the judge of all creation. The same hands that built the stars are now writing your redemption into motion. You are not forgotten in the divine agenda. You are the living evidence of God's justice unfolding on earth. But as you stand here, something sacred stirs within you. You realize that what God has given you was never meant for you alone. Your breakthrough carries seeds for others. Your restoration becomes the soil for someone else's faith. You are not just a receiver, you are now a vessel, a messenger, a carrier of light into places still trapped in shadow. And so, this is a gentle moment between heaven and your heart. If this message has stirred your spirit, if it has spoken life into your valley, if you feel the flame of hope reigniting within you, then let your gratitude become action. When you like this message, it's as if you're leaving a fingerprint of light saying, I agree with heaven. When you share, you are passing the torch forward. lighting another soul's path through their own night. When you subscribe, you're building an altar of consistency, a place where truth continues to speak when the world grows loud again. And if you feel led only if your heart truly feels moved, you may sow a small gift of love. A donation not as payment but as a pouring of oil into the lamp of this mission. Imagine a flame that has guided you through darkness. Now your seed becomes another drop of oil, keeping that flame alive for others still searching for their dawn. There is no demand here, no condition. True giving is never coerced, it is an overflow of gratitude. Whether you give prayers, time, encouragement, or a small offering, it all becomes part of a living river that carries this light further than any of us could reach alone. Remember, a single spark can ignite a forest, and one act of generosity can sustain 1,000 unseen flames. Your kindness, your engagement, your presence here, these are not small things. They are the language of heaven spoken through human hands. So take a quiet breath. Reflect on how far grace has carried you. If your heart feels moved, let that gratitude flow through a like, a share, a subscription, or a seed of oil poured into the lamp of faith. You are not funding a voice, you are fueling a flame that refuses to die. Every story shared, every heart healed, every person lifted from despair, these are the fruits of your faithfulness. Together, we are keeping the fire burning until every corner of darkness knows that light still wins. Your faith has become a living flame, spreading warmth through unseen hearts. Every act of love, every seed sown, becomes wind beneath wings that carry hope farther than fear ever could. Heaven counts such moments, recording not the size of gifts but the sincerity behind them. Each quiet offering vibrates with eternal consequence, echoing louder than thunder. And as light multiplies through your hands, know this: the same God who sustained you will bless your overflow, turning compassion into currency and gratitude into glory that never fades. You have walked through the shadows long enough. The time has come for the chains that wrapped around your life, fear, doubt, generational weight, to finally break. You have felt it lately, haven't you? The tension in the air, the sense that something is shifting but not yet seen. That feeling is not anxiety, it is spiritual movement. Heaven is aligning the unseen. There are moments when freedom does not come quietly. It does not arrive with soft music or calm skies. Sometimes it comes with shaking, with the thunder of God declaring, "Enough. You have reached that moment. What once held you cannot hold you anymore." The chains you inherited, mindsets, patterns, wounds passed through bloodlines, are being shattered by the power of the Spirit. Every cycle that repeated in your family, every invisible weight that tried to follow you, is being confronted by divine fire. This is not imagination. This is liberation. The Word of God declares in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." The battle that once felt too heavy for your shoulders was never yours to fight alone. Heaven's armies have surrounded your life, even when you didn't see them. Angels have stood guard through your nights of doubt, waiting for the command to strike the chains that held you captive. That command has now been released. You have felt resistance not because you were weak, but because you were powerful. The enemy feared your awakening. He tried to tie your soul to shame, to regret, to fear of failure. But the moment you decided to believe again, light began to leak through every crack of the prison walls. You are standing in the same place where generations before you gave up, but you will not. You are the interruption to a long line of sorrow. You are the proof that curses can end, that history can be rewritten by faith. What was passed down as pain stops with you and transforms into purpose. This is what breaking chains looks like, crying one last tear but refusing to quit. Shaking with fear but still standing. Feeling unworthy yet saying, "I'm still chosen." That defiance is holy, it terrifies darkness. The Spirit of God whispers, "Step forward, forward from guilt, forward from failure, forward from every identity the world tried to assign you." Chains break not only through noise, but through revelation. The truth has reached you, you are free, and freedom once discovered can never be contained again. And now, as a prophetic act, heaven invites you to declare your release. Comment 444. That number symbolizes open doors and divine breakthrough, the moment where what was locked begins to yield. Write it not as a ritual, but as a statement of faith that your life will never return to what it was. When you type it, imagine the sound of metal falling, the clang of every spiritual lock breaking open. You are aligning your agreement with the decree of heaven. What God has set free cannot be rebound. Do not fear what is leaving. When chains fall, so do attachments. Some relationships, opportunities, or habits may fade away now, but do not grieve them. The same hands that break chains are also preparing you for new doors, higher ground, and lighter steps. You are being repositioned. Every step you take from this point carries a sound in the spirit. Hell recognizes that sound. It's the sound of someone who knows they are free. You no longer carry the vibration of despair, but of destiny. The night is over. The wilderness has taught you how to walk by faith, and the season of captivity has taught you how to fight with worship. You are ready now, not just to survive, but to lead others into the freedom you found. Remember this truth: freedom is not a one-time event, it is a rhythm. Walk in it daily. Speak it over your mind, your home, your future. Each time you choose peace over panic, you tighten heaven's hold on your promise. Let this be the day you stop calling yourself broken. Let this be the day you realize you were never meant to carry the weight alone. The Lord has gone before you, and His presence breaks every shackle. Now breathe deeply. Feel the lightness returning to your soul. You are stepping into the open fields of grace where fear cannot follow. You are free, and freedom looks good on you. So take one last deep breath and whisper your freedom into the air. Comment 444. A declaration that every chain has fallen and your spirit now walks in divine, unstoppable liberty. Exposure always comes after endurance. There was a time when lies seemed louder than truth, when those who deceived prospered while you, the chosen one, were silenced. It felt unfair, didn't it? You watched people twist your name, misinterpret your silence, and use your kindness as a weapon against you. Yet you said nothing, because heaven instructed you to keep still. What you didn't realize then was that silence was your weapon. Your restraint became the evidence that separated you from them. Now, the season of exposure has begun. The lights are coming on, and the shadows have nowhere left to hide. You are not the one being exposed, they are. The truth that was buried under manipulation is rising like sunlight through fog. Those who laughed while you wept will soon understand what it means when God defends His own. The prophet wrote in the book of Job, chapter 12, verse 22. He reveals the deep things of darkness and brings utter darkness into the light. That verse now breathes over your situation. Every hidden conversation, every secret scheme, every false narrative is coming into the open. The same people who once thought they controlled the story are losing their grip on the script. God Himself is rewriting it. Exposure is not vengeance, it is alignment. The hand of God does not reveal to humiliate, it reveals to restore order. There are moments when justice must be seen so that peace can return. Heaven is not only vindicating you, it is cleansing the environment around you. You will notice its soon sudden shifts, unexpected clarity, truths you could never have proven suddenly surfacing without your effort. You will not have to say, "See, I told you." The proof will speak louder than any defense you could have made. Your peace will be your loudest testimony. Exposure feels messy, but it is merciful. When light enters, darkness panics. You may feel the shaking as things are revealed, but do not fear it. It is God setting the record straight. What once confused you will begin to make sense. The motives of others will unfold before your eyes, not to breed bitterness, but to confirm your discernment. You were never crazy for sensing the wrong in what looked right. You were discerning. Heaven was warning you. Every uneasiness, every inner whisper that said, "Something isn't right," was the Spirit protecting you from deeper harm. You were not paranoid, you were prophetic. And now, because you trusted the process, the reward is unfolding. Vindication does not always come with applause. Sometimes it arrives with silence, a peace so heavy that even your enemies cannot disturb it. You will see people quietly distance themselves from the ones who tried to destroy you. You will see favor return to your name without you lifting a finger. That is divine exposure. Do not gloat when it happened. Do not say, "Finally." Simply stand still in reverent awe. The same grace that defended you now calls you to humility. What God is doing is bigger than personal revenge. It is a cleansing wave meant to restore balance. The truth is setting many free, not just you. You will notice how different you feel in this new clarity. Lighter, clearer, calmer. The weight of being misunderstood is gone. The constant need to prove yourself fades away. You finally understand that the truth was never lost. It was simply waiting for its appointed hour to speak. Every false word spoken against you is losing its power. The echoes of deception are being swallowed by the sound of heaven's truth. You no longer have to defend yourself because your defender has already spoken. Exposure also means elevation. When the air clears, those who once ignored you will see the value they dismissed. The places that shut you out will now look for your wisdom. Your very survival has become credibility. You will no longer explain how you endured. Your endurance will explain itself. This is the moment you stop running from your story. Every part of it, every misunderstanding, every delay, every wound has become a living testimony of resilience. God is not erasing your past. He is reframing it. The same narrative that once caused you pain is now the platform for His glory. And when you look back, you will see that exposure was not a punishment, it was mercy. It was heaven's way of cleaning your path before promotion. You had to see who was for you and who was against you before the next door opened. You had to witness the masks fall so that your next season would be free from hidden poison. So walk with peace. The truth is your armor now. Let the light reveal what it must, for you have nothing left to hide. The season of exposure is not meant to hurt you, it's meant to release you. The shaking has begun, and the earth beneath your spirit can feel it. What once stood firm is trembling. Systems built on lies are cracking, and foundations built on pride are sinking. Yet you, though surrounded by chaos, remain steady. That stability is not your own strength. It is the hand of God beneath your feet. Everything around you may shake, but you, the chosen one, were built on a different foundation. There is a divine reordering taking place. It is not just happening in your life, but across the world. You can sense it in the air, the quiet hum of change, the sound of heaven rearranging what humanity distorted. It may look like loss at first, but it is really alignment. When God begins to shake, He is not punishing, He is purifying. The shaking reveals what can stay and what must go. People, places, patterns, all are being tested. What was built on truth will remain. What was built on deceit will fall. And though you may mourn some of what collapses, you will soon see that it was mercy disguised as movement. The structures that once looked secure were secretly hollow, unable to carry the weight of your destiny. It was proclaimed in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 26. Once more I will shake not only the earth but also the heavens. This is that moment. The shaking is divine proof that heaven is active again. Everything unstable in your life is being exposed so that what is eternal may stand without obstruction. You are being separated from imitation stability to experience unshakable truth. Look closely at what is happening around you. Relationships that once felt unbreakable are being tested. Opportunities that seemed perfect are falling away. But do not grieve the loss. Celebrate the clarity. God is clearing your path of anything that could collapse under the weight of your coming assignment. In times like this, fear whispers, "What if I lose everything?" But the Spirit answers, "You will not lose what is truly yours." The things designed by God for your destiny are not fragile. They can withstand the tremors of transition. What shakes away was never meant to stay. The shaking is not just external, it is internal. Your thoughts are being purified, your motives refined, your desires redefined. God is not only rearranging your surroundings, He is rebuilding your inner structure so you can carry greater glory. You will not just stand, you will shine. Remember how gold is purified. It must be heated until every impurity surfaces. The refiner watches carefully, never letting the metal out of his sight until he sees his reflection in it. That is what this shaking is for, not to destroy you, but to reveal His image in you. As the world trembles, heaven whispers, "Stand still." You do not need to run from the shaking. You are the reason for it. The world must move for your destiny to settle into place. The mountains are trembling, not because of chaos, but because the weight of purpose is descending. The same winds that once pushed against you are now repositioning you. The pressure you feel is not destruction, it is propulsion. You are being launched from the ground of familiarity into the sky of divine purpose. If you feel things slipping from your hands, release them willingly. Do not try to glue together what God Himself is tearing down. You cannot rebuild what heaven has condemned to fall. Let the shaking do its work. Every collapse clears space for creation. Every ending makes room for beginning. In the days ahead, you will see reversal after reversal. What seemed powerful will crumble. What was dismissed will rise. God is not done shaking until everything false bows to truth. The proud will fall, and the humble will inherit what was hidden. The shaking is not judgment against you, it is judgment in your favor. You may feel the uncertainty of this transition, but peace remains your anchor. Hold to what is unchanging: the word, the promise, the presence of God. When you stand on truth, even earthquakes become rhythm for your next step. So do not panic when things move. Rejoice. The tremors beneath your feet are heaven's applause announcing that your old season has ended. You are crossing into stability built by divine hands. The kingdom that cannot be shaken is rising within you. When the dust settles, you will see that nothing truly yours was lost. The shaking only removed what could no longer stand. You will emerge stronger, clearer, unshakable, not because the world calmed down, but because your spirit finally learned how to stand still while everything moved around it. Obedience is the gate through which destiny flows. Many desire the blessing, but few are willing to walk the narrow road of instruction. Yet for you, chosen one, This is the hour of divine obedience, the moment where your yes carries eternal weight. Heaven does not seek perfection from you. It seeks surrender. There were times when obedience felt like loss, when saying yes to God meant saying goodbye to people, comfort, and plans that once made sense. You obeyed without applause, and your faith was tested not by what you gained, but by what you had to release. That is the proof of true devotion, to trust even when the path disappears. You must understand, obedience is not blind submission, it is divine strategy. It is the alignment between heaven's will and your willingness. Every act of obedience opens doors that effort alone could never unlock. You may not realize it yet, but some of the miracles you've prayed for are waiting on the other side of your next yes. The word of the Lord speaks through the first book of Samuel, chapter 15, verse 22. To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. You see, obedience carries a fragrance that sacrifice alone cannot release. Many do great things for God but fail to listen to God. But you, through pain and patience, have learned to listen. You have learned that delayed obedience is still disobedience, and that partial surrender is no surrender at all. Every time you said, Lord, I'll wait," even when everything inside you screamed to move, heaven took note. Every time you chose silence over argument, prayer over revenge, humility over pride, you advanced in the unseen. Obedience built your authority. And now, heaven is giving you a fresh command to move forward with confidence. No more hesitation. No more questioning whether you are worthy. You were chosen long before you were ready. The instruction is simple. Go where He sends you, even if you don't know what waits there. You have reached the part of the story where comfort must die so that calling can live. The world tells you to follow your heart. Heaven tells you to follow His voice. The difference between confusion and clarity lies in one word: obedience. You may not understand every step, but faith rarely gives explanations. It gives direction. God does not reveal the full map because your heart must learn to trust the compass. The Spirit will not shout over your distractions. He will whisper in your stillness. That is where obedience is born, not in noise, but in quiet conviction. Do not fear the unknown, for the unknown is where miracles hide. When Abraham left his homeland, he walked toward a promise without proof. When Peter stepped out of the boat, the water did not harden until his foot moved. Movement precedes miracle. The sea parts for the obedient, not the hesitant. You've been prepared for this. The tests, the tears, the times you thought nothing was happening, all of it was divine conditioning. You were learning the rhythm of God's voice. Now that rhythm will guide you through doors others cannot see. And now, as a sign of your readiness, make a declaration in faith. Comment, "I will go." These 3 words are not mere text, they are covenant. When you type them, you are agreeing with heaven's direction, saying, "Not my comfort, but your calling." It's a small act in the physical, but it echoes loudly in the spiritual. The moment you declare it, unseen paths begin to open, and the atmosphere of your life shifts toward destiny. Every story of greatness begins with obedience. Every chosen one must face the moment where comfort and calling part ways. You stand at that crossroads now. The same God who led you through pain will now lead you through purpose. Do not delay any longer. The time for questioning is over. Heaven has already spoken, and your next step has been written in grace. Walk forward, not because you understand, but because you trust. The future belongs to the obedient. When you choose obedience, you choose alignment with power. It may cost you applause, but it will purchase peace. Heaven rewards those who move when others hesitate. Every obedient step becomes a ripple of light, breaking barriers you never knew existed. You may not see results immediately, but eternity records every yes you whisper in faith. So one more time, with your heart fully open, comment, "I will go." Let these words become your signature of surrender, a covenant of trust. As you write them, the path before you strengthens, and your obedience becomes the sound heaven recognizes. You are sealed. You have crossed through the fire, through storms and betrayal, through silence and shaking, and still, you stand. What you carry now cannot be stolen, cursed, or undone, because heaven has placed its mark upon your life. You are no longer the wounded one. You are the witness. The seal of the chosen rests upon you like invisible armor, declaring to every realm, "This one belongs to me." When God marks someone, it's not with visible ink, but with invisible authority. People may not understand why doors open for you, why attacks no longer reach you, why peace surrounds you even in chaos. It's because the seal speaks for you. It is not arrogance, it is ownership. You belong to the one who commands the wind and calms the sea. The ancient words in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 22, proclaim, "He anointed us, set his seal of ownership on us, and put his spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come." That seal is your evidence. You have been authenticated by heaven. Every counterfeit connection, every false blessing, every temporary success that was not rooted in truth is now falling away, because what is real can finally stand. But the seal also carries responsibility. You are not meant to hide the light you've been given. You are the letter heaven writes to the earth, living proof that faith still works, that grace still restores, that God still chooses ordinary people to display extraordinary mercy. The same oil that covers you now calls you to pour it out for others. You may ask, how do I do that? It begins with awareness, with realizing that even the smallest act done in faith sends ripples through eternity. Every time you encourage, every time you pray, every time you share light in dark spaces, you participate in heaven's ongoing story. So if this message has touched your heart, if it has spoken into wounds you never told anyone about, then take a simple step of response. When you like this message, you are placing a candle in the window of your soul, telling heaven, "I see the light, and I want it to shine through me." When you share it, you are opening a window for someone else trapped in night to glimpse dawn through your courage. When you subscribe, you are building a well, a place where you can return again and again to draw from living words when your spirit feels dry. And if your heart stirs deeper, if gratitude rises quietly inside you like water finding its level, then let it overflow in whatever form feels true. A prayer, a kind word, or even a small donation. Each is a drop of oil poured into this flame so that it may keep burning for others still lost in the dark. This is not a demand, nor a condition. It is an invitation to partnership, to become part of a greater circle of giving that turns inspiration into impact. Think of it this way: a single flame lights another without losing its own fire. In the same way, your generosity, whatever shape it takes, extends warmth without ever depleting your glow. There is a sacred beauty in voluntary giving. It is the moment where gratitude becomes visible. Heaven never forgets a heart that gives from love, because such acts mirror its own nature. The Creator gives endlessly, and when you give freely, you reflect His image. You are part of a movement of light bearers, people who have been sealed, refined, and now chosen to carry divine hope into a weary world. You are not funding a message, you are fueling a mission. Every gesture, every seed, every share keeps this light alive so others can find the same comfort you once sought. You have come too far to hide your fire now. Let your gratitude be action, not obligation. If your heart whispers yes, then act not because you must, but because you can. For in every act of willing love, heaven expands through you. The seal on your life is not silent. It glows, it speaks. It declares that you have been preserved for purpose and protected for impact. And as you pour out what you've received, that same seal will draw back abundance to you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. You are proof that light cannot be extinguished, only multiplied. So let it multiply through your hands, your voice, your giving, and your faith. Let the sealed ones shine until the darkness has no place left to hide. There comes a moment when the stillness before victory feels almost unbearable. The air thickens, time slows, and the weight of waiting presses on your chest. Yet, it is in this precise moment that the Lion of Judah begins to move. Heaven does not roar without reason. The silence that once wrapped your life is about to be broken by the sound of divine authority. When lions hunt, they do not rush. They watch, they wait, they study. Then, when the time is right, they move with power no prey can outrun. That is what heaven has been doing in your story, studying every scheme, watching every injustice, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And now the roar is rising. The enemy thought the delay was weakness, but it was wisdom. Every false accusation, every attack against you was only allowed to build the tension of divine justice. When God moves, He moves in fullness, and what once terrified you will now fear you. It was written in the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 8. The lion has roared, who will not fear? The sovereign Lord has spoken, who can but prophesy? That roar is not a sound, it is a decree. It shakes the unseen world, and everything built on deception begins to crumble. The roar announces that the season of opposition has expired. Every demonic contract, every curse spoken in darkness, every force that conspired to silence you is trembling under the sound of heaven's authority. The lion does not roar to warn, he roars to reign. His voice cuts through the noise, separating truth from illusion, loyalty from betrayal, and light from shadow. Those who once appeared powerful now shrink under his gaze, because no one can counterfeit divine strength. You will begin to feel it, a shift in atmosphere, a stirring in your spirit. It is not anxiety, it is awakening. The roar of the lion is not outside you, it is within you. The same spirit that raised Christ from the dead now roars through your soul, calling you to rise in courage. You are not a silent survivor anymore. You are a living sound of victory. You have waited long enough. The time for whispering prayers of endurance has given way to declarations of authority. The ground beneath your feet is responding to your faith. Every promise you once only believed is now vibrating toward manifestation. In nature, when the lion roars, the jungle falls silent. Everything pauses because authority has entered the atmosphere. That is what happens when the Lion of Judah speaks on your behalf. Every storm, every accusation, every spiritual enemy must stop and listen. The chaos that surrounded you is forced into submission. And yet, in the midst of all this power, there is peace. The roar does not bring panic to the righteous, it brings reassurance. You no longer have to defend yourself or prove your purity. Heaven is doing that for you. The roar says, "This one is mine." Your enemies will not understand what happened. They will look for the version of you they once hurt and find someone unrecognizable. The roar changes everything. It transforms the wounded into warriors, the rejected into rulers, the forgotten into flame bearers. You are that transformation in motion. You are the echo of a promise fulfilled. Every word God ever spoke over your life is being reactivated. The roar is the sound of acceleration. It is heaven's way of saying that delay has ended. Now watch closely. Justice will not only visit your enemies, it will also revisit your destiny. What was stolen will be restored with interest. What was delayed will return multiplied. The roar resets the balance. It cancels every lie that tried to define you. You are no longer walking in survival mode. You are walking in dominion. You do not move like prey anymore. You walk like promise. The same roar that announces judgment for darkness announces elevation for you. So breathe in the shift. Let your heart steady. The roar is not against you, it's for you. It is the sound of heaven declaring your vindication, your restoration, your rise. Nothing can silence what God Himself has chosen to announce. The lion has roared, and now all creation takes notice. You will not need to strive for recognition. The sound of divine justice will precede you. Every step you take from here echoes with purpose, and the world will feel the vibration of what heaven has declared. You are no longer hidden. You are crowned. The roar has gone forth, and with it comes the sound of reversal. What was meant for your destruction is being turned in your favor. You can sense it. Doors that once resisted you are now trembling on their hinges. Heaven has written a new decree, and the season of almost has ended. The delay that mocked your faith has become the very proof of your endurance. You are walking into divine reversal where the last becomes first, where the forgotten are called forward, where the rejected are crowned with honor. This is not imagination, this is manifestation. Every tear that once watered the soil of your pain is now producing a harvest of joy. The scales are tipping. The verdict is changing. For years, you carried burdens that were never yours. You carried blame for things you never caused, shame for things you never did. But now, heaven is rewriting your name in purity and power. The stains of accusation are being washed away, and what was taken from you is being multiplied in return. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 7. Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. This is your portion, chosen one. The divine exchange has begun. What was broken is being restored. What was silenced is being amplified, and what was stolen is being returned sevenfold. Even the time you thought you lost is being redeemed. But reversal is not just about receiving, it's about recognizing. When God turns things around, He doesn't just restore what was taken, He redefines who you are. You are not returning to who you were before the pain. You are stepping into who you were always meant to be. There will be moments soon when the very places that once rejected you will call for your presence. The same voices that doubted you will echo your testimony. That is what divine reversal looks like. It confuses logic, silences pride, and glorifies God alone. You may notice things shifting quickly now. Doors open easily, favor flows naturally, and peace follows you into rooms that once felt heavy. It's not coincidence, it's compensation. Heaven is paying back every unseen sacrifice. The years of endurance are cashing in their spiritual reward. Reversal also means restoration of honor. The labels placed on you by others no longer fit. Where people saw weakness, heaven saw strength. Where they said you were finished, God said, just wait. Every false word spoken against you has become fertilizer for your comeback. Now, the Spirit of God whispers, write this moment down. You will want to remember how it feels when the tide finally turns. You will want to tell others that divine justice is not delayed, it's deliberate. You waited, and now your waiting is becoming witness. And now, as a prophetic act of faith, declare this shift over your life. Comment 888. This number symbolizes new beginnings, overflowing restoration, and divine recompense. When you type it, you are not chasing superstition, you are agreeing with heaven's decree. You are saying, my season of reversal is here. My story is changing. It's more than digits. It's a signature of transformation. Let your heart rest in this truth: God wastes nothing. Every detour, every denial, every delay was part of the setup. The same stones thrown to wound you are now becoming the steps that lift you higher. What was bitter has turned to sweet, and what once crushed you now crowns you. Look at your journey. The ashes have turned to beauty. The sorrow has turned to song. You are walking proof that God does not just restore, He redeems with interest. So walk forward, not timidly, but triumphantly. The storm that once threatened you has become the wind beneath your wings. The turnaround has begun, and it will not stop until every wrong has been made right. You are living inside a divine reversal, and heaven itself bears witness. Soon you will look back and realize the shift was not sudden. It was the quiet accumulation of every prayer, every tear, every moment you chose faith over fear. Reversal is not an event, it is a rising tide. Even now, heaven rearranges the pieces you once thought shattered beyond repair. What slipped from your hands returns in better form, shaped by grace, strengthened by waiting, purified by fire. So once more, seal this moment in the Spirit. Comment 888, not as ritual but as recognition. It is your written agreement with heaven's turnaround, your declaration that restoration is not coming. It is here. Cross the earth. Something is stirring quietly, steadily, unmistakably. It is not a trend, not an emotion, not a movement orchestrated by human hands. It is a calling, a summoning, a gathering of those whose spirits have been awakened by fire, whose eyes have been trained in darkness, whose hearts have survived battles invisible to the world. You are one of them. You are part of the remnant. The remnant is not the majority, it never has been. It is the small group heaven preserves for purpose when the world drifts off course. These are the ones who hear what others ignore, who feel what others suppress, who discern what others dismiss. If you have ever felt out of place among the crowds, it is because your spirit was tuned to a higher frequency. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand out. The remnant does not gather in comfort, they gather in conviction. They are woven together by scars, shaped by storms, and connected by a knowing deep within their souls. We were born for more than survival. Perhaps you have felt this tug recently, a subtle restlessness that makes you uncomfortable with ordinary life. That is not dissatisfaction, it is destiny. This gathering is not physical, it begins in the spirit. Long before the chosen stand side by side, they begin to align heart to heart. Heaven is drawing you toward others with the same anointing, the same fire, the same resilience. You are not being called into isolation, you are being summoned into unity. The prophet Micah spoke in the 4th chapter. Verse 7, I will make the lame a remnant, those driven away a strong nation. The Lord will rule over them in Mount Zion from that day and forever. That is the blueprint of the remnant. Those the world called weak become warriors. Those the world rejected become rulers. The remnant is not chosen because they are the strongest, they are chosen because they never surrendered their faith, even when strength failed. You have walked through seasons that stripped you of almost everything, but they could not strip you of your fire, and that fire is the very signal heaven uses to gather its own. Across nations, across languages, across wildernesses, others like you are awakening, some through shaking, some through loss, some through revelation, but all through divine design. You may not know their names yet, but your spirits recognize each other. When you meet them, there is no need for explanation. Pain understands pain. Purpose recognizes purpose. Light knows its reflection. They are the ones who will walk with you into your next season because they carry the same spiritual weight, the same clarity, the same calling. The remnant does not gather to compete, they gather to complete. Each carries a piece of the greater puzzle. Your voice fills their silence, their strength fills your weakness. Where one lights a candle, another carries a torch. When you stand together, darkness has no foothold. This is why the enemy fought you so intensely. He feared the moment you would rise not alone, but with countless others who carry the same authority. One chosen carries power, a remnant carries revolution. You were not meant to fight these final battles isolated. Heaven has assigned allies to your destiny. Soon you will see them, people whose presence feels like prophecy, whose words feel like confirmation, whose lives echo the same journey your soul has walked. You will find them in unexpected moments, in unusual places, in divine intersections that feel like they were scripted long before time began. And when the remnant stands together, the atmosphere shifts. Breakthrough accelerates, vision sharpens, fear dissolves, because destiny was never meant to be carried alone. It was meant to be carried in unity by those who have passed through the fire and emerged glowing with faith. You are entering that season now. You will not walk the next chapter unsupported. Heaven is assembling your circle warriors, intercessors, builders, healers, visionaries. Some are ahead of you, ready to pull you higher. Others walk beside you, strengthening your stride. And some will follow you, because your endurance will become their roadmap. Do not fear this gathering, embrace it. You are not losing independence, you are gaining impact. Your story is becoming part of something larger than you, something ancient, sacred, prophetic. You are stepping into a lineage of chosen ones who carry heaven's flame in human form. The remnant is rising and you are among them. Not by chance, not by luck, but by divine appointment. Your spirit was marked long before your struggle began. And now it is being positioned where it always belonged, among the awakened, among the anointed, among the ones who will help shift the course of nations. You are not alone. You never were. The gathering has begun. There is a sacred change moving across the spiritual landscape, a dismantling, a removal, a collapse of structures that stood on deception rather than truth. The fall of false thrones is not a quiet event, it is a divine necessity. Before God elevates the chosen, He removes the impostors who stood in places they were never anointed to hold. And now, in your story and in the world around you, that fall has begun. False thrones are built from three things: manipulation, pride, and appearances. They rise quickly, but they rise hollow. They gather followers through fear or flattery, not by authenticity. They shine brightly for a moment, but their foundations rot beneath them. They are counterfeits, imitations of true authority. And for a season, they may appear powerful, but heaven is patient, not blind. You have witnessed this. Haven't you, people who position themselves above others with arrogance? Leaders who demanded honor instead of carrying humility? Voices that spoke loudly but not truthfully? They wore crowns they forged themselves. Thrones made of influence rather than integrity. They placed themselves in roles heaven never assigned. And for a while, they seemed untouchable. But the era of illusions is ending. The light of God is sweeping across hidden motives, exposing what was never aligned with His heart. He is not simply bringing down individuals, He is dismantling atmospheres polluted by pride, systems built on control, and platforms fueled by ego rather than service. This is not destruction, it is purification. The prophet Ezekiel wrote in chapter 21, verse 26, "Take off the crown, remove the turban. Things will not remain as they are. The lowly will be exalted, and the exalted will be brought low." This is the divine blueprint unfolding before your eyes. Positions will change. Roles will shift. Those who exalted themselves will be humbled, and those who remained faithful in silence will rise. God is making room for the true ones, the purified ones, the ones who carry calling rather than craving attention. You may have once felt overshadowed by these false thrones, overshadowed by louder voices, by those who gained influence through tactics instead of truth. Perhaps you questioned your worth, wondering why others prospered while you remained hidden. But hiddenness is not punishment, it is protection. God hid you so you would not be contaminated by the systems He now intends to dismantle. Now, the veil is lifting. People will begin to see clearly. Charisma will no longer be mistaken for character. Noise will no longer be mistaken for anointing. Positions gained through manipulation will crumble under the weight of exposure. And the ones who once intimidated you will have no power left when the truth strips their thrones bare. This is not a time for you to gloat or to rejoice in the downfall of others. The fall of false thrones is not about humiliation, it is about restoration. God is clearing the path for integrity, purity, humility, and righteous leadership to rise again. It is an act of mercy for the world, and a sign to the faithful that He still rules with justice. When false thrones fall, it can feel chaotic. People may be confused, systems may tremble, relationships may shift unexpectedly. But do not mistake the shaking for disorder. What seems like collapse is actually correction. What feels like loss is heaven preparing a clean foundation for what is coming next. And you, chosen one, are being placed strategically in this transition. You carry the qualities false leaders lacked. Where they sought recognition, you sought truth. Where they demanded loyalty, you cultivated authenticity. Where they grasped for power, you pursued purpose. That is why God is repositioning you in this season. The fall of false thrones clears the stage for voices like yours. Voices that carry compassion, not control, authority, not arrogance, wisdom, not manipulation. You are rising not because you wanted a throne, but because you carried a calling. There is a profound difference, and heaven knows it. Soon, you will see doors open that were once locked by those who feared your authenticity. You will see opportunities emerge that were previously overshadowed by counterfeit authority. The fall of false thrones is not merely judgment, it is your invitation. An open space where your anointing can finally breathe. Do not fear the shifting. Do not mourn what collapses. When God removes what is false, He is preparing to reveal what is true. You are stepping into a world being rebuilt by His hand, and He is ensuring that your path is free from the shadows of those who once stood in the way. The false thrones are falling, and your time to rise in purity and purpose has come. Vindication is not a whisper, it is a revelation. It arrives not quietly, but with the weight of heaven behind it. You, who once walked through valleys with tears as your companion, are now stepping into a season where God Himself speaks on your behalf. This is not imagination. This is not coincidence. This is divine timing. There is a way justice feels when it finally comes soft as dawn, yet strong as thunder. You begin to breathe differently. The heaviness that clung to you for years begins to fall away like dust from old garments. You look around and realize the pain you carried did not destroy you. It prepared you. The tears you shed did not drown you. They watered the soil of your breakthrough. You are now walking in the harvest of every moment you refuse to give up. Vindication is not revenge. It is restoration. It is God setting the record straight in ways you could never orchestrate. It is honor returning to your name. It is truth rising from the ashes of lies. It is peace where chaos once ruled. It is the moment heaven says, "Enough." You have been patient. You have endured seasons where your voice seemed small, where your intentions were misunderstood, where your heart was mishandled. But even in silence, God was watching. Even in stillness, your integrity was speaking. Your endurance was building a testimony that now shines brighter than any accusation ever hurled against you. The psalmist wrote in the book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 6, "Then my head will be exalted above my enemies around me. At his sacred tent I will sacrifice with shouts of joy." This is that exaltation, that lifting, that reversal of every false judgment. God is not merely vindicating your name, He is elevating your life. People will look at you and see evidence of grace, not because you fought to be seen, but because you stayed faithful when unseen. Vindication also carries purpose. What God restores in you becomes restoration for others. What He heals in you becomes healing through you. The world around you is starving for hope, starving for proof that endurance matters, that truth still rises, that goodness still wins. And your life, your survival becomes that proof. Now, if your heart feels stirred, let your gratitude become expression. Not forced, not demanded, just a natural overflow. When you like this message, it is as if you're adding another stone to the altar of remembrance, saying, "God did it for me." When you share it, you extend a hand to someone still trapped in a valley you escaped. When you subscribe, you carve out a small sanctuary where your spirit can return for nourishment, like water drawn from a deep well. And if there is a quiet tug within you, a warmth that whispers, "I want to give back," then let it flow gently. A donation is not a transaction, it is a seed, not payment, but partnership. A way of placing oil into a lantern so its flame can continue guiding lost hearts toward hope. Not all seeds grow in soil. Some grow in souls. If you choose to give, whether finances, prayers, encouragement, let it be an act of beauty, not obligation. Heaven honors what is given willingly, joyfully, sincerely. True giving is worship wrapped in gratitude. As vindication unfolds, you will notice something remarkable. Your heart no longer craves recognition. You are no longer searching for validation. The evidence of God's hand on your life becomes enough. The peace you carry becomes enough. The light returning to your eyes becomes enough. This is the season where your story stands tall without explanation, where your silence speaks louder than your defense, where your rise becomes undeniable proof that no darkness can bury someone God has chosen to elevate. And if you feel this moment deeply, if something in your spirit whispers yes, then offer a simple expression of faith. Comment, "I rise again." Not a chant, not a ritual, just a declaration that your story has entered a new chapter, one written by the hand of vindication itself. Let this be the moment you finally breathe freely, the moment you accept the crown forged from your trials, the moment you recognize that your pain has become purpose, your losses have become lessons, and your endurance has become your elevation. You are walking into a season where what once crushed you will now bow before you. Heaven has spoken. Vindication is here. And as your story rises, every scar becomes a pathway of light, proof that even shattered pieces can shine when held by divine hands. Your future greets you with open gates, your destiny strengthened by every trial. Now you walk forward, crowned not by chance but by divine choosing. There is a weight to this moment, not the heaviness of sorrow, but the solemn gravity of destiny settling into place. After all the battles you have endured, after the seasons of silence, after the shaking and the refining, you are standing on the threshold of coronation. Not the coronation of earthly royalty, but the crowning of an overcomer, one whose faith remained when everything else fell away. Coronation is not given to the comfortable. It is not placed upon those who avoided the fire, but upon those who survived it. The crown you are stepping into was forged in every night you held on to hope when hope felt far away. It was shaped in every moment you resisted bitterness. Every hour you chose faith over fear. Every breath you took when darkness tried to suffocate your spirit. This crown was not handed to you, you grew into it. There is a quiet majesty to people who have suffered and remained soft. Heaven recognizes that softness is strength. The world applauds loud victories, but God crowns those whose victories were invisible, fought in silence, won in prayer, sealed in endurance. And you, without even realizing it, have been molded into royalty through the very struggles that once made you feel forgotten. The prophet Isaiah declared in chapter 58, verse 11, "The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and strengthen your frame." This is not symbolic alone. It is spiritual reality. You are stepping into a season where your identity is no longer shaped by wounds but by wisdom. The pain that once dragged you down has become the platform that lifts you up. The crown is not made of gold, it is made of resilience, revelation, and redeemed purpose. Coronation changes posture. You begin to walk differently, think differently, see differently, not with arrogance, but with clarity. You realize that not every battle deserves your energy, not every voice deserves your attention, and not every setback deserves your fear. You begin to understand the authority you carry not as a weapon of pride, but as a mantle of responsibility. A crowned one sees beyond the surface. You no longer react to shadows because you have stood in the fire long enough to recognize what is real. You no longer chase validation because you have learned that heaven's approval outweighs human applause. Your heart beats differently now, stronger, steadier, wiser. And this coronation is not just for you, it is for what you are becoming. People will look at you and see strength they cannot explain, peace they cannot comprehend, and purpose they cannot deny. You will walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere, not because you try to, but because the crown you carry radiates with divine weight. But remember, this coronation is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of influence, and the battles trained your character, but the crown commissions your calling. Heaven does not crown for comfort, it crowns for assignment. There are people waiting for the version of you that is now emerging. There are hearts that will heal because you survived. There are destinies that will awaken because you refuse to quit. This crown calls you higher, not in status, but in spirit. It calls you to forgive more deeply, to speak more wisely, to love more courageously, to walk more boldly. It calls you to stand not as the wounded one, but as the healed one. Not as the pursued one, but as the purposeful one. Not as the broken, but as the builder. And perhaps the most profound truth is this: you are not crowned alone. Heaven celebrates with you. The same angels that stood guard during your darkest hours now surround you in honor. The same God who carried you through wilderness now places his blessing over your new beginning. Your coronation is not a moment, it is a mantle that marks you as one who rose despite everything that tried to keep you down. A mantle that says your voice carries weight, your presence carries peace, and your story carries glory. A mantle that affirms you were chosen, tested, refined, and now crowned. So step forward, stand tall, lift your head not in pride but in purpose. The crown fits now. It belongs to the one you became through the storm. You are the overcomer heaven always knew you would be. And as you rise, the weight of old battles falls from your shoulders, replaced by a quiet strength that glows like embers carried from a holy fire. Your steps become prophetic, each one leaving imprints of courage on the ground, guiding others toward the same crown of endurance now resting upon you. Judgment has been spoken, not the judgment the world fears, a wrathful strike without warning, but the judgment of a righteous God who sees all, weighs all, and restores all. For the chosen ones, judgment is not destruction, it is distinction. It is the moment heaven separates what harmed you from what will propel you. The moment everything hidden is brought into the light so your path can be made clear. You have walked long enough with unanswered questions lingering in your spirit. Why did they do it? Why did they betray me? Why did the attacks feel so relentless? Why did God allow it now? As the final decree is released, the answers begin to unfold, not through explanations, but through divine unfolding. Judgment is not merely a response to wrongs done against you, it is heaven's way of securing your future. God does not settle accounts only to expose the wicked. He settles them so the righteous can walk forward without chains dragging behind them. Every tear you shed, every night you questioned your worth, every prayer whispered from the edge of exhaustion has been accounted for. None of it vanished into the air. It has been stored, measured, and remembered. The writings of Solomon remind us in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 17. God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked, for there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. This is that time. Divine judgment is not delayed, it is deliberate. God allows wickedness to rise only so its fall is undeniable. He allows the schemes of the enemy to continue only until they expose themselves. And when the moment comes when truth has matured and justice has ripened, He speaks a single decree, and everything shifts. In your story, the decree has been issued. What once stood in your way is losing strength. What once intimidated you is dissolving. What once whispered lies into your mind is being silenced forever. You are stepping into a chapter where the forces that once drained you no longer have permission to touch you. Heaven has drawn a line, and darkness cannot cross it. Judgment for the chosen does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like clarity washing over confusion. Sometimes it arrives subtly, like peace settling where chaos once reigned. Sometimes it arrives boldly, like doors opening so wide that no enemy can claim they were opened by accident. You will see it in small signs, relationships shifting, opportunities flowing, burdens lifting. You will feel lighter, clearer, more aligned. This is what it feels like when heaven rules in your favor. Judgment is not about watching your enemies fall. It is about watching your purpose rise without obstruction. And in the same breath, understand this judgment also means release. Things you once held on to, even the painful things, will begin to slip from your grasp. Not because you failed, but because they've fulfilled their purpose. The season of carrying sorrow has expired. The chapter of wandering has closed. What once felt like an anchor now feels like sand leaving your hands. The eternal decree has gone forth not only against what opposed you, but for what awaits you. God is not simply closing a door, He is sealing it, marking it, declaring that you will never again be touched by the weapons that once sought your downfall. Your future is protected by a judgment written in heaven's ink. You may feel a strange stillness as this happens. Not emptiness, completion. A holy quiet. The sound of justice doing its work beneath the surface of your life. You are stepping into a realm where you no longer walk as the wounded, but as the redeemed. And when you rise tomorrow, you will feel it in your bones, the finality of the battle. the certainty of the verdict, the freedom of the chosen. What once clung to you is gone. What once stalked you has been scattered. What once threatened you has been judged and dismissed. Now you stand at the edge of everything promised. You stand in the light of a future untouched by the shadows of your past. The eternal decree has fallen like fire, and your spirit knows the truth even before your mind fully comprehends it. You are free. You are vindicated. You are protected. You are chosen, and nothing, in any realm seen or unseen, can overturn what heaven has declared over your life. The weight of old battles slips from your spirit, replaced by a calm certainty that destiny has finally opened its gates before you. Justice has cleared the road ahead. You move forward as one marked by heaven, carrying a quiet radiance that darkness cannot imitate and a freedom no enemy can ever reclaim. And now, as this journey comes to its final breath, take a moment to feel what has awakened inside you. The words you've traveled through were not just ink on a page, they were mirrors of your strength, reminders of your identity, confirmations of what heaven has always known about you. You are not who you were at the beginning. Something in you has shifted, opened, risen. You have stepped through fire and come out carrying light. If this message has stirred your spirit, if it has given language to wounds you never spoke aloud, or breathed courage into places that once felt numb, then let your heart respond in whatever way feels true. When you like this message, it is more than a gesture, it is a quiet nod to heaven saying, "This reached me. This changed me." When you share it, you become a bridge for someone else who is standing where you once stood, searching for the same clarity and comfort you've just received. When you subscribe, you create a small sanctuary for your soul, a place you can return to whenever the world grows loud and your spirit needs stillness again. And if a gentle stirring rises within you, an inner whisper saying, "I want to help keep this flame alive," then let that whisper guide you. A donation here is not a transaction. It is a drop of oil poured into a lantern that has guided you through darkness. It makes you part of the flame, part of the light, part of the legacy. Whether it is small or great, it is sacred because it is sincere. Finally, if this message touched you deeply, let your voice join the echo of others awakened by these words. Leave a comment. Share what moved you, what shifted, what awakened. Your words may become the spark that ignites someone else's healing. The journey may end here, but the awakening does not. Carry this light with you. Carry this truth with you. Let the world see through your life what it means to be chosen and to rise.